Well, good evening. Oh, shucks. Man, it is good to be hanging out with you guys tonight. I have missed you guys, and I am so excited not only to be here with you, Haymarket, our Haymarket campus, but also to have our Ashburn family hanging out over here. They all went out to lunch at a picnic over at Long Park and came over here to hang out at the 6:30 service. And guys, listen, one day this was just a dream. And they're building new buildings and all that. One day we'll do it again. But it's just so exciting to hang out and to be back here and to be able to share and just talking about salt and light and the privilege that God has put on each and every one of you. And let me just say this. Let me just thank our Haymarket campus, because it is because of your sacrifice that we are able to do what we're doing in Ashburn. And it's because of the commitment that Haymarket has given to Ashburn and the sacrifice that you guys have given. And so you allow us to do some amazing things, because we have had an amazing summer. We have had some record high in our attendance. People meeting Jesus, baptized. And it's been a great summer. And it's because of your sacrifice that allows us to do it. And our team over here, who is just so committed to reaching that community. And so God is doing some amazing things, and that's exactly why we're here tonight, to talk about salt and light, to talk about the difference that we're supposed to make in this community and in the world that God has put you and I in. Because we're not in the neighborhood we're in on accident. You're not working in the office you're working in on accident. You're not living on the street. You're not sitting next to the person on the bus in the morning. You're not in the classroom that you're in or going to school with the people you're going to school on accident. God has you exactly where He wants you. But sometimes it's easier for us just to kind of sit in the dark and not think too much about it. Because the dark can be a scary place to be, but it can also kind of be a good place to hide if you're not careful. You know, when a few months ago, Justin Cahill, do you guys know Justin Cahill? He's our family pastor here at Haymarket campus. Big, scrapping guy. I know he's sitting over there somewhere. You know, we took our kids canoeing, and we just did a 12-mile trek down the river. All right, so we're camping. We set up camp. We go to bed. We get the kids to bed, and I'm laying down. I go to sleep, fall asleep, and I wake up about 3:30 in the morning to hear what no one wants to hear when you're camping. Justin yells, "Hey, bear." So I'm sitting there thinking, he kind of woke me up. I'm thinking, did I just hear what I think I heard? All right, did I hear? So I didn't move. I just kind of stayed there quiet, and I'm thinking. Then he said it again. He yelled, "Hey, bear." And so I just started thinking, what would Bear Grylls do? All right, well, you know, I took out my 3-inch pocket knife. I'm thinking, all right, there's about a centimeter of nylon protecting me from the animal kingdom. All right, so I'm thinking, I'm right up against the bushes. My car's about 10 feet away. I'm thinking, if I cut a hole in the back of the tent, go through the bushes, I'm in my car. I'm literally thinking this. Then it hits me. Right next to me is a tent full of 5 teenagers. All right, my 2 boys and then my 3 nephews are sleeping in that tent, but listen, they're fast. They got a chance. So these are the thoughts going through my mind. I'm thinking, you know what? I got to do something. All right? It's dark out. There's no moon. There's a cloud cover, so you can't really see the stars or anything like that. It's dark. And so I'm thinking, all right, we got to do something. All right? So I kind of unzip my zipper a little bit, shine my flashlight out there. I see Justin's head sticking out the window, and he has this little Fisher-Price lantern, which was absolutely useless because it only lit up 2 feet circle. So he's like, I can't see, I'm blind. I can't see, I'm blind. So I'm like, well, where's the bear? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? I said, did it run away? I said, where did the bear go? He's like, I never saw a bear. So I'm like, Justin, you yelled, "Hey, bear." You don't yell, "Hey, bear," unless you see a bear. That's the nuclear option, all right? So I'm looking at Justin thinking, how did you yell, "Hey, bear"? He's like, I just heard the trash bag moving. I'm like, because of a trash bag, you yelled, "Hey, bear"? I'm like, no, that's not how it works. I said, you got to be within an inch of your life to yell, "Hey, bear" at a campground. So I'm scared to death now. I'm not going back to sleep. I go out, I light a fire, and I'm up watching all night long. Because I was afraid to be in the dark. I was afraid to see what was going on, because being in the dark sometimes can be scary. When you and I are hiding in the dark, it can be scary. Because we don't know what's out there. You know, the dangers of walking around your bedroom in the night in the dark, you can downright lose your testimony if you stub your toe. You know, so you gotta be careful when you're moving in the dark. The dark can be a very scary place if we're not careful. And so when it comes to realizing what does the light of the world look like. I want to share a verse with you. Matthew chapter 5 says this, if you want to follow along on the screen. It says this, "You are the salt of the earth. But what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father." You and I, we are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. We have been given some clear-cut directions. And in verse 15 is amazing when it says this, "No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, you're supposed to shine bright to make a difference in other people's world, to make a difference in other people's lives." Listen, you don't have to watch the news very long to realize that there's some discouraging, frustrating stuff going on. You don't have to listen to talk radio or politics very long to know there's a lot of anger going on. Pop culture, there's just so much going on. And as a Christian, we can't hide from the world that we're in. We are called to go into the world. And one thing I love about Jesus, when he went to the synagogues or to the churches, if you want to call it that, you know what? He mostly had to confront arrogance and self-righteousness. He went to the people. He went to the people where the people were and what they were doing. And there's a fine line between too much salt and not enough salt. There's a fine line between too much light and not enough light. You can put a little bit of salt on your dinner and it tastes great. You put too much on and you ruined it. You can have enough light to see where you need to go, or you can have too much light and you can blind the person in front of you. And so when it comes to our walk, when it comes to our relationship with the Lord, we need to be careful on how we present who Jesus is and how we represent him when we talk about him. Because, again, you don't have to look too long to realize that there's tons of junk going on out there. And we've lived in Northern Virginia for about, 13 years now, and God has just been doing some amazing things. But back in New England, when it got cold out, you did not cancel school. If there is snow on the ground, we put a plow on the bus, and we pushed the bus to school. And if the snow was too deep, we just put kids in front of it and drove over them. And they got back up out of the snow and got on the bus. That's just what you did. All right, because when it was cold out, you know what we did? My mom would put a big winter coat on me. She'd put some gloves on my hand. She'd put a hat on my head. She'd put one pair of socks on, then a bread bag, and then another pair of socks. All right, and we went to school. Because there's a big difference between isolating yourself and insulating yourself. When we isolate ourselves and say, listen, I can't participate in the world and what they got going on. I've got to stay over here and hide from that. Listen, that's not right. When we insulate ourselves and say, listen, this is how I live in the world. Because you can still love Jesus and still impact this world. You can still have a relationship with Jesus and be different and represent him to the world. And so I just wanted to share 3 quick things with you guys tonight on how do we do that. One, the first one is here. The gospel meets people where they're at. Jesus met people where they're at. The woman at the well, he met her there. He didn't make her go to the church. He met her there. Anytime he hung out with the sinners, you know what he did? He sat down and had dinner with them. He went to where they were. We as a church, we as individuals, the gospel meets people where they are. And Paul, who wrote pretty much half the New Testament, knew that. Look at what he said here in 1 Corinthians. It says this, when I was with the Jews, I lived like the Jews to bring the Jews to Christ. When I was with those who followed the Jewish law, I too lived under that law. Even though I'm not subject to that law, I did this so I could bring others to Christ, those who are under the law. When I'm with the Gentiles who do not follow the Jewish law, I too lived apart from that law so I can bring them to Christ. But I did not ignore the law of God. I obeyed the law of Christ. When I am with those who are weak, I share in their weakness, for I want to bring the weak to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything I can to save some. Listen, we've been called to reach people. We've been called to make a difference in the world that you are in. There is no casual Christians. We have been called to be the light to the world. When you shine a light, it can be seen. When you shine a light, it can be seen. The second thing we wanted to talk about is Jesus told us to love our neighbors. All of them. Because it's very easy to pick and choose who we socialize with because, well, listen, I'll love the ones who maybe look like me, who maybe talk like me, who maybe vote like me or act like me. And listen, Jesus said, listen, you love them all. When they tried to trick Jesus and say, well, Jesus, what's the greatest of the commandments? And Jesus said, two of them. He said, you love God and you love your neighbor. And you love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. And I say this all the time. I love some me. All right? I love me. I love taking care of me. When I look at the pizza box, I'm thinking, I want the biggest slice. When I'm looking at, I just want me to be first. That's just, maybe you're better than I am, but that's just how my mind works sometimes. I figure out, how can I please me the most? All right? And so when it comes to me thinking about others, when I start to think, well, how can I please others the most? How can I love others the most? Because when you decide, I'm going to care about this person, or I'm going to love this person, you automatically have a desire to know that person, and to invest in that person, and to care about that person, and to love that person. And when we start to love the people in our office, when we start to love the people in our classroom, on our bus, on our sports team, in our neighborhood, listen, you can change the world. You can make a difference in the world that you come in contact with. And it's tough. I dread sometimes when people say, what do you do for a living? Because I know that conversation is going to go. I was sitting in the barber shop the other day. I won't tell you which one. And I'm not sure how many kids are in here. They should all be next door. But the barber started talking about, and I'll just be careful, all of his romantic adventures. All right? And he is going into detail. And I'm thinking, oh, geez, he's going to ask me something, and I'm going to have to embarrass him. So then he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? I said, no, I dated the first girl I married. I married the first girl I dated. I don't. He's like, really? You didn't do da-da-da-da? I'm like, no. I said, listen, I'm a pastor. I'm not allowed to do those things. And his face just dropped. And he went, zip, zip, you're done. I'm like, no, I ain't. You got the whole left side to do. I said, and so the awkwardness just came into the room, and I am trying so hard not to laugh because it just changes the whole demeanor. It changed. And I said, listen, don't worry. It's all under pastoral confidentiality. I won't tell anybody. You just confession. We're good. And so it's sometimes it's just tough. But you and I are called to make a difference. We can't hide in the dark because it's easy to hide. It's easy to put our head down and think, well, someone else will do it. Listen, you and I are called to do it. You and I are called to make a difference in the world that we are in. We are called to be salt, and we're called to be light. We're not called to hide. We're not called to hide in the darkness because that's easy to do. That's very easy to do. The last thing I wanted to share is it is our job to do whatever it takes. Listen, it's our job to do whatever it takes when it comes to reaching the people in our lives. We got to step out of our comfort zone. We got to learn how to take risks. We got to take risks. I don't like risks. I like to know what's going on. I'm very calculated. I like to know what I'm getting myself into. Risks sometimes stress me out. But when it comes to doing whatever it takes to reach the lost world, we got to be willing to come out of our comfort zone. Because when it's the darkest, when this world's the darkest, that's when we get to shine the brightest. When this world's the darkest, that's when your light shines the brightest. Let's do this. You guys got these little lights in your bag. Why don't you grab one of these out real quick, and let's go dark for a minute if you guys don't mind. Oh, no, you got to find it now, because technically this is your pen, too. Did you guys know this was a pen? You're like, oh, I should have been taking amazing notes this whole time. There's a little lever on there. Listen, when you and I learn, look, now I can put the light all on your face. How do you guys like it? Listen, just look around. Oh, you're fooling around way too much now with these lights. Look around. See the difference you can make? Do you see the difference that a light can turn on? All right, turn them off for a minute. Turn them off. You guys are in trouble. No one's listening anymore. I feel like I'm back with the teenagers. I know. It's all downhill from here. All right, listen, let's turn them all off for a second. When it's the darkest, we can shine the brightest. Because it doesn't matter what's going on in the world you're in. That cross will always represent Jesus. That cross will always represent the faith that we're following after. I don't care who becomes our president or what happens next. Listen, you keep your eyes on the faith that God has put in your heart, and that's it. And when we shine this light, listen, when you start to shine this light, you can make a difference no matter what's going on in your world, no matter what's going on in your home, no matter what's going on in the people around you, because you can do this or you can do this. The choice is 100% yours. And my prayer is as a church, listen, we just let it shine. Because the darkest it is, the brighter you will shine. God, we love you. Lord, just thank you for the fact that we get to serve you. God, as a church, we get to represent you and advance your kingdom. God, so I pray for everyone in this room. I pray that you would just allow us to pour our faith out. God, that you would just allow us to represent you well, that you would just allow us to stand for you. God, it's scary standing in the dark. God, but when we shine bright, you get the glory. And I thank you that you have chosen us, and you allow us to be a part of advancing your kingdom. God, I thank you for this church. God, I thank you for the families from Ashburn. I thank you for the families from Haymarket. God, and I pray for the families in Manila right now who are watching also. God, you have been so faithful to this church. And I pray we just keep pushing forward. And I pray as a church, we just make a difference for your kingdom. God, and that we just continue to shine for you. We just ask all this in your son's name. Amen. Well, thank you guys so much.